Okay, good evening everyone. We are Group 7. We're going to be uh, presenting Chapter 9, Road Maintenance of our reference book. Highway Maintenance. Highway maintenance begins just after the construction, reconstruction, or rehabilitation of the roadway facilities. As defined by AASHTO, maintenance is the preservation and keeping of each type of roadway, roadside structures, and facilities as nearly as possible in its original condition as constructed or as subsequently improved the operation of highway facilities and services to provide satisfactory and safe transportation. Object Objectives of highway maintenance. The first objective is highway programs and activities are measured by the amount of expenditures for construction of new facilities and reconstruction of existing structures with the aim of keeping up with the traffic demand. Second objective will be maintenance has its own role by giving priority to local, rural, and urban facilities, particularly the paving and rehabilitation after the construction has been completed. The third objectives for highway maintenance is being focused on the on the two on betterment projects, and it includes grading and paving for short alignment changes to correct steep grades or sharp curves, resurfacing, and mulching, planting, flood, and erosion control. The relationship between design, construction, and maintenance. Poor preparation of the base, insufficient slab thickness, and poor mixture of ratio will only result to this very expensive road repair. Indeed, management absorbed the end result of design and construction inefficiency. So, yung mahalaga nga ay yung pag properly prepared ng mga base at slab ng highway para malesen yung pagme-maintenance at mas makakatipid at magkaka-financial efficiency sa project na ongoing. Poor drainage design will mean erosion or deposition of materials that requires costly cleanup and operations. The third are the third is sharp ditches and steep slopes require costly manual labor maintenance as compared to flat ditches and slopes that allow equipment to work at a lower cost. The fourth one would be narrow road lanes usually force large and heavy vehicles to travel with one set of wheels near the edge or off the pavement, giving the maintenance personnel serious problems in the care of pavement edges and the shoulder. Example nito yung mga road natin dito sa example sa Lucena City na mga pang two vehicle highways lang na pag mga truck ang nadaan or bigger vehicle, yung right side na mga set of wheels, nandun na siya malapit sa gutter, mas de-destroy niya yung pavement edges and yung shoulder ng road. Kaya mas magastos sa maintenance. The fifth one would be high maintenance cost is the result of poor design or construction methods. This is the main problem that causes numerous demolitions and unending reconstruction activities being undertaken by the highway people. The basic objectives of highway maintenance are the following. First, continue to provide safe and convenient travel facilities to the road users para mas convenient talaga yung takbo ng society sa isang city or area. Second is avoid detours, speed changes, and etc. due to failures in roadway facilities and to minimize the increase in road transportation costs. The third one is preserve the asset and investments made on the road infrastructures by taking appropriate maintenance measures at the right time. Fourth is avoid rapid deterioration of the pavement structure, leading to huge maintenance costs by carrying out timely preventive maintenance works. The two classification of highway maintenance works are the following: routine maintenance and the preventive maintenance. Routine maintenance yung ginagawa ba monthly or weekly na para ma-maintain nyo na maganda yung highway and roads. Preventive maintenance ay yung para maiwasan nyo na yung mga damage na pwede pang kumalat or lumala. Our next reporter will be Jerome Ibanez.
Maintenance management. Before, maintenance is regarded as secondary functions of the highway agency. The personnel of the maintenance sections often felt that they are regarded as secondary class employees of the highway agency. Indeed, this policy system exists wherein the maintenance positions are used to by patronage support. Today, maintenance and its management are considered the most intricate and ever-changing highway technology. Maintenance is now regarded as one of the most important part of the highway agency, considering the appropriations and expenditures involved for maintenance program. Sa Pilipinas, ang maintenance bilang sa ating pangunahing lansangan. Ngunit sa lahat ng uri ng lansangan ay napakalaga. Dito, nakadepende ang magiging tagal ng serbisyo at tibay ng ating mga lansangan. Ang mga lansangan na ito ay ang magiging backbone ng kaunlaran ng isang pamayanan at eventually ng ating bansa. Kaya naman, dapat ang maintenance sa mga lansangan ay mabigyan ng kaukulang pondo at mga makabagong kagamitan at teknolohiya. Next. Studies showed the need for improvement on the following field. Education in management technique for maintenance engineers and foremen, including its field personnel. Sa kasalukuyan, ang DPWH sa pakikipag-ugnayan na rin sa DILG ay nagsasagawa ng mga web seminar o mas kilala bilang webinar upang turuan at ipahayon sa mga LGUs, engineers ang mga nararapat na paraan sa maintenance ng mga lansangan na nasasakupan ng mga LGU. Secondly, more detailed and careful planning and scheduling of work and establishing standards for the level of maintenance. Dito, isa sa mga tinuturo sa webinar ay kung paano ang wastong pagpaplano at pag-i-schedule ng mga works na nakapaloob sa DPWH standards. Thirdly, major improvement of maintenance tools and equipment. Sa webinar din, ini-introduce nila ang mga makabagong maintenance tools and equipments at kung paano ito ginagamit ng wasto. Fourthly, providing a better and efficient communications. Tinuturuan din nila ang mga LGUs, engineers, and technical personnel sa tamang komunikasyon at pakikipag-ugnayan. Fifth, establishing lines of authority and responsibilities. Gayun din, bahagi din ng kanilang webinar ang pagpapakilala ng kanilang duties and responsibilities upang sa gayon matiyak ang maayos at iisang paggawa. 6. For the maintenance organization to succeed, staffing with permanent and trained and dedicated personnel is the solution. Ang maintenance organization ay bumubuo ng maraming taong technical, mula sa project manager na nasa itaas hanggang sa maintenance man sa laylayan. Ang lahat ng mga taong ito ay may kanya-kanyang tungkuling technical, kaya naman dapat ang lahat ng mga taong ito ay may sapat na kasanayan upang magtagumpay ang isang maintenance project. Thus, effective management system requires efficient, accurate, and fair budgeting and reporting procedures. But how to implement this is next to impossible because it is difficult to overcome varied administration and behavioral problems. So ang lahat ng nabanggit ko ay lubhang napakalaga sa ikatatagumpay ng isang proyekto, yung pagiging efficient, bagsak, sapat na pondo at tamang komunikasyon ay lubhang napakahalaga. Ngunit sa nararanasan natin sa kasalukuyang politika sa Pilipinas kung saan ang paiba't ibang administrasyon na may iba't ibang priority at mindset ang nagiging problema sa implementasyon ng mga proyekto. Next. One example is the studies made on roadside mowing, which shows that first, the use at better equipment could accomplish mowing from 3 to 6 times as much area compared to the use of poor and antiquated tools. So ang meaning ng antiquated, yung mga old-fashioned or yung mga outdated na tools. Kumbaga yung ginagamit sa traditional method. Number two, mowers working side by side accomplish less than when they work separately. Conversation time is most of the working time. Number three, not less than 1.5 of 2 hours a day is spent unproductively for the preparatory operation and travel of the mower to the job site. There's no specific number of mowing on the road shoulder per year, but normally from 1 to 4 times, depending upon the physical condition of the shoulder. Grass by nature grows faster during rainy days than in summertime. Next. Requirements for maintenance management. Firstly, to stabilize the standard level of maintenance by setting performance standards for workers, crew, and maintenance units. This requires methods, time, measurement, expected output for particular operations that are predetermined. Number two, to develop an accurate monitoring and peer reporting system and to compare actual work with the expected production. Number three, to develop a management system that will give efficient work of scheduling assignment. Four, to develop effective procedures, methods, and machinery or organization to carry out individual maintenance operations. Effective maintenance management would be achieved by gaining the enthusiastic support of the personnel by educating them with the new methods plus acknowledgement of their efforts through personal recognition and by financial reward. For there is a saying that we cannot live by love alone. The roadway to the development in maintenance is still far, while others have already gone for advance. We are just about to begin. Next. Highway and its environment. Early roads were patterned after railroad of the same period. The principle behind the construction of early road is to construct the cheapest roadway that would serve traffic under all conditions of weather without regards to its environment. Roadside development was not included in the program. Shoulders and right-of-way are narrow or non-existing at all. Side slopes were too steep. Drainage and ditches, channels, and structures were designed to protect the roadbed without regard to erosion outside the roadway limit. Next. These crude practices in road building have brought unsightly conditions and high maintenance costs until such time that design standards were gradually modified and improved. The later development and improvement of roadway has incorporated the following procedures. Sa mga road building and construction, hindi maiwasan ng maging pangit sa paningin ang lugar kung saan may gumagawa. Usually makikita ito ang mga equipments na ginagamit mga tambak na materyales, gayon din ang mga gamit ng mga tao nagtatrabaho. Ngunit sa panahong ito kung saan mayroon ng design and construction implementation standard na sinusunod at dito rin nakapaloob ang mga panuntunan sa development at improvement of highway. Number 1, pleasing views and surroundings were developed sacrificing a little cost or distances to enhance driving pleasure. Bukod sa paggawa ng mga kalsada, nagiging prioridad na rin ang kapaligiran na maging kaaya-aya. Kahit ito ay nangangahulugang pondo, ay ito ay ginagawa rin na sa ganun ay magkaroon na tinatawag na driving pleasure ang mga malalakbay. Number 2, long sweeping horizontal curves are acceptable than short curve connecting by long tangents. Sa disenyo ng kalsada, yung tinatawag na long horizontal curve ay mas katanggap-tanggap kaysa sa short and sharp horizontal curve dahil ito ay may nagaganyak na panganib sa mga motorista. Number 3, choppy or broken backgrade were not only flattened but smoothened. Ang sunod-sunod na putol-putol na vertical curve ay iniwasan din hanggat maaari ito ay pinababa inaalis. Motorist cuts and fill heights were lowered to reduce scare and slope erosion to a minimum level. Sa bagay ng kalsada kung saan matataas ang ahon at matatarik ang lusong, ito ay inaalis din at pinabababa ng ganun. Hindi mahirapan ang mga motorista sa kanilang pagmamaneho. Number 5, retaining walls are sometimes helpful and improve the attractiveness of the roadway. Ang mga structures tulad ng retaining walls, slope protection structures at iba pa ay nakakatulong at nakakapagdulot ng kagandahan sa kalsada. Maraming ganitong istruktura ang makikita sa mga lansangan kung paluwas sa Maynila. Makikita mga ganito sa SLEX, NLEX at mga expressway kung saan papunta tayo sa bahaging norte ng Luzon. Number 6, modern highway now provides wide road beds, shoal wide gutter, ditches, flat back slope and cuts and flat side slope on fill. Lastly, top of the cut banks and toes of fields are rounded to blend with the original ground. Next. These features of the roadway give safer roadbed and a pleasing approach. Erosion occurs more slowly or prevented on flatter slopes. The result is less expense for cleaning gutters and ditches. Mowing could be done using power equipment that substantially reduces main cost. Wider right-of-way has become a necessity in roadside development for the following reasons. Number 1, it allows blending of the road into the natural landscape. Number 2, it provides and objectionable areas and other undesirable objects. Lastly, it isolated the highway visually from its surroundings and freeing the roadside of hazards. Next. Roadside is the entire right of way except the traveled way. In planning roadside development, planners were conscious of the cost maintenance, including the cost of mowing, trimming, and cleaning. Roadside development is sometimes referred to as roadside beautification made after the road construction is completed. Roadside development, without question, provides a more pleasing environment for travelers, less maintenance costs, and safer highways. The roadside development is under the care of the highway agency, although their readjacent property homeowners who sometimes contribute to the purification of their surroundings, including the roadside itself, for aesthetic consideration that they themselves enjoyed. Next.
One, two, three, four, five. Rehabilitation. Next. The FHW defined rehabilitation as resurfacing, restoration, and rehabilitation work, restoring to the original safe usable condition without addition to the original capacity. Next. Pavement rehabilitation is an activity primarily to provide good riding and skid resistance or to improve the structural effectiveness of the pavement. According to AASHTO, the primary objectives of pavement rehabilitations are to improve the smoothness of the road surface, to extend the pavement life, to improve the skid resistance of the road, to construct the sections with poor foundations, to improve the drainage facilities. Next. Next. The efficiency of the highway system could be rated by sufficiency ratings to determine if the highway should be repaired. Accident data to determine the accident rate. Skid tests to prevent skid-related accident of the inspections. Public comments. Next. Resurfacing. Resurfacing is the addition of pavement layer over the existing roadway or bridge deck surface to provide additional capacity. The additional resurface pavement should not be less than 20 mm in thickness. It is to create a smooth and new surface. Next. Restoration and rehabilitation. Pavement maintenance, corrective and preventive. Reconstruction, removal of existing pavement and replacing them with a new pavement under course. Overlays, Portland, cement, or asphalt concrete laid on existing pavement. Next. Recycling, it is the repeated use of existing materials working on asphalt materials, Portland, cement, or lime. Generally, recycling contributes to the stabilization of cost conservation due to inadequate materials, resources, and reduction of energy requirements. Ibig sabihin po nito ay ginagamit lang po yung recycling pag yung naglalaka po ng mga material resources. Pavement recycling is categorized into the type of materials to be used, the procedure to be employed, the structural benefits to be gained. Next. Restoration and rehabilitation work includes replacement of defective joints, repair of spalled joints, substantial pavement work, reworking or strengthening of subbase, recycling existing materials to improve their structural integrity, adding under drains, improving shoulders, removing and replacing deteriorated materials. Next. Recycling procedures. Surface recycling. In-place surface and base recycling. Central plant recycling. In surface recycling, it consists of reworking about the top surface of asphalt pavement. It is applied for the treatment of raveling, wheel track, rotting, flashing, and corrugations. The main disadvantage of surface recycling is it can be noisy and cause air pollution. The advantages of surface recycling is it reduces reflection cracking, promotes bond between the old pavement and the thin overlay, provide transition between the new overlay and the existing gutter, bridge, pavement, etc. Reduce localized roughness. Treats variety of types of pavement distress such as raveling, flushing, corrugations, rotting, oxidizing pavement, faulting at a reasonable cost. It also improves skid resistance. The disadvantage of the surface recycling is limited structural improvement. The heater scarifier and heater planning has limited effectiveness on rough pavement without multiple passes of equipment. Limited repair of severely flush or unstable pavements. Some air quality problems. Vegetation closer to roadway may be damaged. Mixture with maximum size aggregate greater than 1 inch cannot be treated with some equipment. In place and next. In place surface and base recycling. This procedure involves pulverizing all existing pavements, followed by reshaping and compacting. Before relaying, the materials are upgraded with lime, Portland, cement, or chemicals. The main advantages of in-place surface and base recycling is it increases the load carrying capacity of the pavement. Advantages: significant structural improvements. Treats all types and degrees of pavement distress. Reflection cracking can be eliminated. Frost susceptibility may be improved. Improved riding quality. The disadvantage of the in-place surface and base recyclings are quality control not as good as from the central plant. Traffic disruption, pulverizing equipment, repair requirement, higher in cost. Next. Central plant recycling, the removal of materials from the roadway, crushing them, mixing in the plant, then laid and compacted with conventional equipment. The advantages of central plant recyclings are significant structural improvement, good quality control, treats all types and degrees of pavement distress, reflection cracking can be eliminated, improves skid resistance, geometries can be more easily altered, better control if additional binder or aggregate is used, improve riding quality. The disadvantages of central plant recyclings are increased traffic disruption, may have air quality problems at plant site. Next. Maintenance and rehabilitation programs. Surface roughness, surface distress, surface deflection, surface friction or skid resistance. Next is the definition of terms and being reported by
These are the definition of terms. Surface roughness, component of surface texture that is defined as rough. Any solid material will have a significant influence on the macroscopic contact angle measurement on its flat surface. Plays a vital role in various processes such as moistening, spreading, and wetting. Next is surface distress. Indication of poor or unfavorable pavement performance or signs of impending failure. Unsatisfactory performance of pavement short of failure can be classified into fracture, distortion, and disintegration. Next. Fracture, a form of cracking in result of excessive loading, fatigue, thermal changes, moisture damage, slippage, or contraction. Next is distortion, a form of deformation in result of excessive loading, grip, densification, consolidation, swelling, or frost action. This disintegration, a form of stripping, raveling, or spalling in result of loss of bonding. Chemical reactivity, traffic abrasion, aggregate degradation, poor consolidation or compaction. Next is the stress type. Traverse cracking, rotting, map cracking, pothole, longitudinal cracking, raveling, depression, pumping, bleeding, bump, poor skid resistance, and roughness. Surface deflection. Measurements are primary means of evaluating a flexible pavement structure and rigid pavement of load transfer. Next. Evaluation and maintenance of concrete pavement. The management on the basis of field observation alone is becoming difficult. Hence, the objective method of evaluation was introduced. Number one is those projects that need immediate maintenance or rehabilitation are listed on the priority projects. Number two is the type and kind of maintenance or rehabilitation required is specified. Number three is what strategy of maintenance or rehabilitation would be adopted now and in the future to minimize life cycle cost or minimize the net benefits. Next. Maintenance of concrete pavement. Maintenance of good concrete road could be argued as follows. Number one is sealing cracks of traverse and longitudinal construction and expansion joints is one recommendation for maintenance. Number two is sections that are removed should have a minimum area of 20 square meters. Number three is good practice demand that extra thickness adjoining the old concrete be provided, extending the patch under the old pavement to width and depth of 10 centimeters. Number four is additional cement is necessary to produce high early strength concrete. Number five is pavement surface with spall from freezing and thawing of salt action are leveled with asphalt mixture or surface treatment. Number six is spall joint can be repaired with cement grout containing epoxy mixed with catalyst. Next. These are the process and techniques to restore the concretes. Mud jacking. Techniques for raising and stabilizing settled concrete slabs, also called abjacking or concrete lifting. This repairs method is highly effective and provides long-lasting results. Ito yung pag hindi pantay yung concrete, nag-i-inject. Ito yung process na ginagamit upang mag-inject ng concrete sa ilalim para magpantay yung dalawang concrete. Next is undersealing, process by which hot asphalt is pumped underneath the concrete slab so it flows into patches that were hollow and eroded. Ito naman yung alternative na ginagamit para sa mud jacking. Ito yung hindi na kailangan i-inject, tas nilalagay na lang sa joints ng concrete para mag-stabilize yung dalawang concrete tsaka magpantay. Next. highway and its environment. The later development and improvement of roadway has incorporated the following features. Number one is pleasing views and surroundings were developed sacrificing a little cost or distances to enhance driving pleasure. Number two is long sweeping horizontal curves are acceptable than short curve connected by long tangents. Number three is choppy or broken back grade line were not only flattened but smoothened. Number four, in rough areas, the depth of cuts and fills, weights, heights were lowered to reduce scare and slope erosion to minimum level. Number five is retaining walls are sometimes helpful and improve the attractiveness of the roadway. Next is modern highway now provides wide road beds, shallow wide gutter and ditches, flat back slope and cuts, and flat side slope on fill. Next. Wider right-of-way has become necessity in roadside development for following reason. These are, it allows blending of the road into the natural landscape. Next is it provides space to plant screening in front of unsightly and objectionable areas and other undesirable objects. Number three is it isolated the highway visually from its surroundings and freeing the roadside and of hazards.
Road maintenance and beautification. When we say highway beautification, it is the landscaping and control of the usage of the land by highways. In United States, highway beautification subject the Highway Beautification Act, Section 131 of Title 23 United States Code of 1965, commonly referred to as Title I of the Highway Beautification Act of 1965 as amended. The act placed restriction on billboard advertising along highways and removal or screening of junkyards. Highway beautification is a broad term that includes activities like first, landscaping and roadside development within the rights of way. Second, improvement of strips and land adjacent to the highway for restoration, preservation, and development of publicly owned and controlled rest area, recreation areas, and sanitary areas, including other facilities. The factors that contribute to beautification are good location, good design, construction, and maintenance. Next. Outdoor advertising. The control and removal of outdoor advertising had long been controversial in the beautification of highways. A court ruling on these aspects states that the concept of public welfare for the purpose of which the legislative may exercise police power is broad and exclusive, and the value it represents is spiritual and aesthetic as well as physical and monetary. For public interest, the government should extend full assistance to the control and use of the areas adjacent, adjacent to the highway by regulating the erection and maintenance of outdoor advertising signs, display, or other devices within a reasonable distance from the edge of the right-of-way but still visible from the main traveled way. Next. Environmental laws. Environmental law is a collective term encompassing aspects of the law that provide protection to the environment. A related but distinct set of regulatory regimes, now strongly influenced by environmental legal principles, focus on the management of specific natural resources such as forests, minerals, or fisheries. The government had passed enough laws to protect the environment, and the environmental laws that has following intent is first, A government recognizes the impact of man's activities in relation to all components of the national environment, more particularly in the influence of population growth. Second is the high density urbanization. Third, industrial expansion. Fourth, resource exploration. Fifth, the expanding technological advances. And lastly, the restoration and maintenance of environmental quality to the welfare and development of man. Next. Number two, the present generation must fulfill the responsibility as trustees of the environment for the succeeding generations. Third, to assure all Filipino people of a safe, healthful, productive, and aesthetically and culturally pleasing surroundings. Fourth, to provide the widest beneficial use of the environment without degradation and risk to health or other undesirable consequences. To preserve some important historic, cultural, and natural aspect of our natural heritage, and whenever possible, an environment which uphold diversity and variety of individual choices. Six, to maintain balanced distribution of population and use of resources that will give high standard of living and wide sharing of life's amenities. Lastly, to impart that all person has the responsibility to contribute to preservation and enhancement of the environment. Next. The environmental effect of highways. On the negative side, roads occupy land resources and form barriers to animals. They can also adverse impacts on natural water resources and discharge areas. The three most damaging effects of road construction management are noise, dust, vibrations, and the main object of community complaint on environmental effects of transportations are as follows. First, air and noise problem. Second, traffic-induced vibration. Third, accidents. And lastly, the annoyance caused by water pollution, dust, and dirt. Next. Next is air pollution. Air pollution, be it from fixed or mobile sources, it is the main concern in most urban areas. Air pollution is the mixture of solid particles and gases in the air. Ozone as a gas is a major part of air pollution in cities. When ozone forms air pollution, it also called smog, and some air pollutants are poisonous. So air pollution is the result of progress. It comes from discharge into air of non-reactive pollutants including carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, sulfate, dust, smoke, and lead. These are two dimensions in highway pollution problems which are, first, the area-wide effects of preliminary reactive pollutants, and second, the high concentration of non-reactive pollutants at points or corridors along or near highways. Next. Various approaches to reduce area pollutants were planned and employed, including future approaches such as by land use control. One example is the limitation and control of industrial commercial development where their construction and land use would contribute to pollution. Second, to lower the emission. This is by lowering the emission of pollutant from existing machineries. And third, modification of the fixed existing facilities, such as substituting low sulfur coal to reduce the release of sulfur dioxide. Next. Lastly, lowering pollution coming from motor vehicles that falls under the following categories. Reducing the output of pollutants by making them fuel efficient and controlling pollutant output. Second, limiting vehicle travel by shifting travelers to other mode of using electric current. Third is cutting fuel consumption and pollution output by improving traffic flow. And lastly, a set of standards to be met by vehicles. Motor vehicles are mainly the contributor to both forms of pollutants estimated at 70% carbon dioxide, 50% hydrocarbon, and 30% of nitric oxide. The area condition is acceptably worse when temperature inversions trap pollutants near the ground surface. When there is little wind or no wind at all, concentration becomes extremely high, affecting human life and even some vegetation are killed, stunted, or the foliage is burned. Next. Next is noise control. Noise control or noise mitigation is a set of strategy to reduce noise pollution or to reduce the impact of that noise, whether outdoor or indoors. Noise is defined as unwanted sound. Noise is measured in decibels with a common unit, dBA. This single unit combines sounds from all frequencies above 100 per second and strongly react in the human ear. Sound at 1 decibel level could be hardly detected by human ears, but an increase of 10 on the decibel scale means tenfold increase in intensity. In a quiet residential area at night, the ambient noise is measured from 32 to 43 decibels. The urban residential district at daytime limit is about 41 to 53 decibel, and in industrial areas, the range is 48 to 66 decibels. And in downtown commercial areas with heavy traffic is 62 to 73 decibels. In terms of conversation or communication, these sound levels means that at 65 decibels, a conversation is difficult at a distance of 1 meter, and at 75 decibels, an ear has to be plugged by a finger in order to hear a telephone conversation. So 75 decibel is as loud as the sound of a vacuum cleaner or chamber music in a small auditorium. Next. The transportation noises are complex, where studies showed that first, complaints are focused on interference with speech. TV viewing or sleep related to increase of sound ambient is noise above ambient noise level. Second, increase up to 9 decibels. Complaints would be widespread and there would be community reactions. And lastly, highway noises near residences at peak noise of about 70 decibels. Complaints are likely and 80 decibels will invite letter of petition and protest. Next. Construction in relation to roadside development. At time of grading operations, topsoil should be preserved for future landscaping. Likewise, trees outside the distance limit from the traveled way should be protected from damages caused by man and equipment. Removing of soil or fields from along the right of way called side borrow should be avoided, and borrow fields out of sight from the roadway is preferable. Objects of interest like rocks, outcrops, in cut slope or trees at toes of field should be preserved for pleasant view. Rugged slope in borrow areas and along roadsides are dressed to encourage the return of native plants and shrubs. Next. Vegetation and the highways. Vegetation, or also called roadside vegetation, is a term that is typically reserved for naturally occurring vegetation adjacent to a rural road rather than straight trees or other vegetation planted within a nature strip. So ground cover is defined as low-growing herbaceous or woody plants more than 1 meter at maturity. Both low shrubs and vines are included. It is an alternative to grass in controlling erosion by wind and water. It also serves as insulation that reduces sloughing caused by freezing and thawing. Mat-forming plants like poison sumac, crabgrass, dandelion, giant ragweed, and others are considered best ground cover for protecting slopes and other roadside areas. There are those that root from decumbent branches and those that spread from suckers and shoots. The term mat-forming plants are plants that has many stolons or creeping stems that grow in a trail along soil or water surfaces and spread out to produce a mat-like cover. Next. So other vegetation desirable for roadside protection. First, bushy dense foliage plants and those producing litter with great water holding capacity are considered good vegetation to protect the roadside against erosion. Second, the rapid growing species with inconspicuous flowers to prevent destruction and vandalism are preferred. 3. Fire-resistant plants with the ability to sprout after burning are much desirable. The Cogon grass is one example. Lastly, the plants that are subject to disease and insect damage, poisonous or irritating to the skin, or that may become agricultural pests should be rejected. Next. Next. So trees and shrubs. Trees are woody perennial plants that have one central system and are generally more than 12 feet in height and normally have a distinct head. So shrubs are wood perennial plants that have a number of stems usually produced from near the soil line of the plant. Trees and shrubs are effective means of providing interest, variety, and beauty to the roadside. Those that are native to the area are more preferred than the imported variety. So the following are the tips in planting. First, for rural roads, the object is to preserve or recreate a natural foreground in harmony with a distant view. Existing well-placed trees should be preserved while ugly and obstructing growth are removed. Second, replanting should only be considered only when irregular introduction of trees and shrubs serve to highlight the natural beauty of where it is particularly desirable to screen unsightly objects. Last, trees should be planted back at a distance from the traveled way to provide recovery area for vehicles that run off the driveway. A minimum distance of 9 meters from the lane edge is recommended. Next. Row planting along rural road is not considered a good taste. It spoils distant views with a monotonous design. The formal arrangement of trees and shrubs is suitable for urban freeways and expressways. Fifth, group planting creates an occasional point of interest or call attention to intersections, bridges, or other point of hazard. Sixth, continuous planting is appropriate to screen unsightly roadside conditions or to insulate residential areas from the road. Seventh, and lastly, avoid monotony over long stretches of the route. The solution is to group flowering trees and vines at best and appropriate location. Next. The parking and rest area. Likewise, location closer to cities and towns are not parking and rest area. Parking turnout to accommodate stopping off the traveled way is an important adjunct or to major rural highways. Wayside rest areas are necessary facilities of the highway wherein motorist stops, relaxes, and use sanitary facilities. Wayside rest areas should be located on those with natural features that make the area more attractive, those that are accessible and safely located, and those with sufficient area and with existing shades. Locations where public use will create fire hazard or otherwise affecting adjoining property that should be avoided. Likewise, location closer to cities and town are not advisable because it will just be monopolized by the town people. The site must have adequate driveways and parking space separated from the traveled way with bumper rails or curbs to confine vehicles and if possible provided with fence. The best example of this parking and rest area was the Atimonan Zigzag Park, where when people travel, some of those who passed the park took their time to rest there after the long drive. The roadside going up has tall trees that give shades and will totally cut the motorist's attention because of their appearances that you can really tell that some of the trees are old trees. And there are also some mini stores along the way where you can buy souvenirs and there are benches that where you can stop and eat the lunch of the motorists. Next. Yeah, so that would be all.
On cam kayo. So that would conclude our report. I'm Aiden Verconsul. I reported objectives and relationships.
I am Jerome A. Ibanez. I reported highway maintenance and evaluation of concrete pavement.
I'm Reyes Janelo, so I reported the rehabilitation.
I am Fritz Aguila. I reported the definition of terms.
I am Kyla Hernandez. I reported the highway beautification, outdoor advertising, environmental laws, environmental effect of highways, vegetation and the highways, and the parking and rest area.
That would be all for our presentation of Chapter 9 Road Maintenance for Highway Engineering. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you.